14 scenarios have previously been identified for the BIMStorm San Jose Airport. These scenarios run across the entire life cycle of facilities, all the way from planning to managing facilities, looking at aircraft movements, risks, contracts and agreements, and total cost of ownership, among others. You can participate in this BIMStorm remotely and also by attending the various conferences. The next one is going to be on November 7th at the Airport Consultants Council in San Diego, California, and right after that in Washington, D.C. at the Asset Leadership Network Conference at the National Academies of Sciences. If you can't attend either conference, we also encourage you to participate by joining and entering these 3 simple exercises. Exercise 1 is from the stakeholders' perspective of operations and maintenance facilities. Number 2 is owners of the airport, and number 3 is from architects, engineers, and contractors who are building and designing a new terminal. You can wear all 3 hats, or you can try just one. The intent is to show different stakeholders' point of view and to start a discussion. And in number 3, we're actually going to go through a live planning scenario of planning a new terminal. Exercise 1, you basically click on number 1. And this is a short form. It takes about a couple minutes to fill in. You put in your email address. And we have a bit of information about the asset leadership strategies. And the question here is, which group best represents your current role? If you're not very familiar with this, just make some assumptions. And for example, there's a strategy and planning role for planning airports, another one for organization and people, decision making, knowledge enabling, risk review, and life cycle. It's not important to know the details of it, but go ahead and try this form out. It's to start a discussion about how you look at assets. We've picked some assets at the airport. This is not a complete or scientific survey. It's more to look at the angles of how you compare assets. So for example, terminals, runways, control tower, emergency generators, and firefighting. What is the relative importance of each asset compared to other assets? So if we go through the questions, number 1, rate the relative importance of terminal buildings compared to runways and taxiways. Are terminal buildings less, equal, or more importance than runways and taxiways? More or equal. Select one of the buttons. The same thing with control towers. I'm being kind of random here in my selection, but basically you fill this in. And the next question is runways and taxiways compared to the control tower, communication systems, rescue and firefighting, and emergency generators. Make your selection and move on to number C, control towers. Same question, relative comparison of importance to other assets. Communication systems. If communication systems go down, how important are they compared to other assets? And last is rescue and firefighting. And the last question after the asset checklist is, how confident are you of your responses? We've asked you to make guesses if you're not familiar, but if you are familiar with airport operations, you might be more confident or somewhat confident or not confident at all. Go ahead and submit, and you will receive an email response with your responses. And during the BIMStorm presentations, either at the conferences or online in the webinars, we will be reviewing the responses and making decisions based on these. The next exercise is from an owner's perspective, a 3-minute exercise, identifying the next project. What kind of considerations do owners have when they make decisions about what to do next from a planning perspective? Same pattern here, enter your email address. And the question is from a planning input perspective. The question is, how many international arrivals per day are they this year? If you know, go ahead and put that in or make a guess. And this is for a planning scenario 10 years out. So we're first asking, what is the projected increase for the next 10 years? Let's say 20%. How many domestic arrivals per day today? What's the projected increase in 10 years? What's the projected increase or decrease in the number of gates in 10 years? And a bonus question, what is the maximum wingspan of the following FAA airplane design groups? Small, regional. This is a critical factor in planning for aircraft gates, the clearances that you have around aircraft as, for example, international flights start coming in. So knowing these numbers is important. And again, same question, how confident are you? And hit submit. You'll notice that some of these questions are questions that you may not have very much information on, or you may have a document, or you may have knowledge about it from your previous experience, or you might need to go research it. But the intent is not to have a right answer, just to start the discussion of some of the factors that go into planning and designing an airport. So that's number 2. And number 3, we'll draw on number 1 and number 2, and we're going to go through a live planning exercise together at the various conferences, or in a follow-up webinar for those that cannot attend in person. We will have a follow-up webinar. A date is not announced yet, but sometime toward the end of this year, a webinar will be announced to present the results and allow participants to join us for those that weren't able to attend the conferences. Thank you for your interest in this BIMStorm.